Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into a really pivotal 30-year stretch in Cambodia's history, from 1916 all the way to 1945. It's all about how a colony that seemed so quiet on the surface started to find its voice, pushing back against French rule and paving the way for its own independence. You see, to the French, colonial Cambodia was this peaceful, almost timeless land. They kind of saw it as this romantic setting for their empire, a quiet kingdom full of ancient ruins and, well, obedient people. And yeah, when you look at this view from above, a city like Phnom Penh looks so neat and orderly. It totally fits that picture, right? But here's the thing. Even some of the French officials on the ground knew something was up. As this French resident so sharply pointed out back in the 20s, maybe that calm was just a mask. Maybe underneath that placid surface, something else was brewing. Okay, so let's dig into that. We're going to really break down this whole myth versus reality thing. Because what the French wanted to see and what Cambodians were actually living through were two completely different worlds. So on one hand, you had French writers just gushing about this romantic, timeless Cambodia. But on the other hand, the colonial government was basically a machine, and its main job, really, was to squeeze money and labor out of the people to pay for its own projects and administration. And right at the heart of all this was something called corvée labor. I mean, just try to imagine this. You're a farmer, and for up to 3 months a year, 90 days, you're forced to just drop everything, leave your fields, and go build roads or maybe even fancy resorts. For free. This wasn't some minor issue. It was a huge deal, and people all across the countryside absolutely hated it. Well, all that resentment, it couldn't stay bottled up forever, right? It was bound to explode, and when it did, man, it completely shattered that French myth of the passive, quiet Cambodian. The calm was officially broken. And it all came to a head with two really shocking events, less than 10 years apart. First, this massive organized protest in 1916. Then, a brutal assassination in 1925. Both of these incidents show just how thin that veneer of French control actually was. And this is what gets me, the sheer scale of that 1916 protest. We're talking up to 100,000 people. The French were completely floored. This wasn't some disorganized mob. They were so well organized that the French described it with disconcerting speed, which is basically official speak for, we have no idea how they pulled this off so fast. So much for individualistic people, huh? Okay, so you've got these massive revolts happening out in the countryside. But at the same time, something else is starting to bubble up in the cities. A totally new kind of resistance, a modern nationalism, was taking hold among the educated Cambodians. You see, the whole game was changing. Before, the playbook was, if you have a problem with, say, taxes, you go to the king and ask for his help. But these new nationalists, they were playing a different game entirely. They weren't just complaining about bad rules. They were questioning who got to make the rules in the first place. And a perfect example of this is the newspaper Nagaravata. I mean, the name itself, Angkor Wat, is so powerful. It's the ultimate symbol of Khmer civilization. And this paper became this hub, this public square for a whole new generation of patriotic thinkers to share their ideas. And this is a really important point. This wasn't just about the French are bad. It was much more complex. They were looking around and seeing Vietnamese officials in the best government jobs, Chinese merchants controlling the economy, and the French educational system, it would teach them just enough to be frustrated that there were no good jobs waiting for them. So you've got this slow-burning fire of nationalism. And then along comes World War II, and it's like someone just threw gasoline on it. The foundations of the French Empire were about to get rocked, and everything was about to change, faster than anyone could imagine. And, I mean, the collapse of French authority was just stunningly fast. In just 4 years, the French get beaten by Thailand, they're openly defied on the streets by monks, of all people, and then the Japanese just walk in and dismantle their entire administration. It was one blow after another until the whole illusion of French power just crumbled. And in one of the great ironies of history, the French basically set their own downfall in motion. They pick this 19-year-old kid, Norodom Sihanouk, to be king. Why? Because they thought he'd be easy to control, a puppet. Whoops. Instead, they put the future face of Cambodian independence on the throne. And of course, every movement needs its heroes. For this one, a key figure was Son Ngoc Thon. He was one of the guys behind that big 1942 demonstration. When the French forced him to flee to Japan, he didn't just fade away. No, he became this legendary figure, a hero in exile, inspiring everyone back home. All right, so this brings us to the final act of this period. The war is ending, the world is in chaos, and suddenly, that idea of independence, which had always seemed like a distant dream, it was right there, within reach. There was just no going back. And for this one wild summer in 1945, it actually happened. Cambodia was independent. Son Ngoc Thon even came back from exile to be prime minister. But the celebration didn't last long. As soon as Japan surrendered, the French came right back in, backed by the Allies, marched into Phnom Penh, and arrested him. So the French flag was flying again, sure, but nothing was the same. You couldn't just put the genie back in the bottle. The people had had a taste of freedom. They had seen their seemingly invincible colonizers get kicked out. They knew the empire could fall because they'd literally watched it happen with their own eyes. So what's the takeaway here? The French came back, yeah, but that myth of their invincibility was gone forever. How could a nation that had now truly awakened ever really be a colony again? The so-called quiet period was over for good. This awakening, it lit a fire that set the stage for the final push, the one that would lead to Cambodia's real independence just a few years down the road.